Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tera.
Tera, what do we have going on today?
Okay, so we have a re-release of a book that Sandra introduced me to a while ago, and it's by Kate Stewart, and it is her Ravenhood series. The first book is called Flock, and she is re-releasing these with a wider reach, so hopefully everybody can go grab a copy of this book because it's great. It's got some hard-hitting sections. Ooh, Sandra coming away with the signed copy.
No, so Tera and I read it 3 years ago for the first time, and I have to give Sam over at Sam Reads a little shout out because she is the one that enticed me to read them because she read it and became obsessed with it and had nothing but awesome things to say about it. And so when I picked it up, it's a trilogy, but now there's a spin-off series as well. And I was just addicted. So the author, she might still have signed copies on her website, and these are just going to be available until they're out.
Go into a little bit of the plot before we go crazy on our spoilers and get way out of order. Sandra, do you want to start?
Yes, this is the non-spoiler section. We will give you fair warning before we jump into spoilers. I think the best way to approach talking about the book is to say as little as possible. So if you can, I think it's safe to say both of us recommend not reading any synopses, right?
Oh, yes.
Part of the allure of this series is it's kind of a mystery, trying to figure out what this secret is. Like throughout the book, there are instances of this secret coming up to the surface. And we're kind of in the main character, Cecilia Horner's shoes, because she's kept in the dark about this secret and she's very frustrated by this throughout the story. And so it's best to go into the book blind, but just know that it is a contemporary romance, and a lot of the vibes with this book is it's sexy, it's very moody. There's this play off weather with some of the love interest. So I will give a disclaimer that there is multiple romantic partners, but I won't say more than that, what that entails. Mm-hmm. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what to say.
So at this point, if you have not read this book, or the next two, really, get to reading them. They are fast reads because you do get drawn into them and you want to find out. I think I've mentioned this in the past that I am not a good waiter in books.
No.
I want to know all of the details, all of them right away, to the point that when I'm watching shows, I look up the end of the show so that I know what I'm expecting. And this book draws you in. And I didn't even look up the ending to this book. Although I did, I think when I first read it, I kept texting Sandra like, oh my God, is this it? Is this it? Is this what's going on? But it does. It draws you in. I didn't even have to look up the end.
Tera is that chaotic Taurus, just spoiling herself, needing to figure everything out. She's so funny. Well, my favorite hot take probably the first time we read this was getting a text message from you that said, oh, this is werewolves, isn't it? Something like that. It's like, not saying one way or another. But you definitely get that vibe too.
Well,
it kind of feels like a paranormal romance.
It does. And he calls her, he has a specific nickname for her, which is Pup. One of the he's, I guess. And it just gave werewolf vibes.
Yeah. It didn't help that there's just a ton of dudes around all the time, and that tracks with the whole werewolf thing too, right?
Yeah.
The wolf pack.
And they're kind of like a brotherhood too.
Yes.
In a sense, or you see that through her eyes, that they are a brotherhood of some sort. Again, that checks for a werewolf pack.
And another thing about this Ravenhood trilogy, it is sort of this coming of age story for Cecilia as well, because the prologue of this book, it's present day, but the events of her story when she moves to Triple Falls, she is 18, about to turn 19 years old. So it kind of follows her journey into adulthood and then navigating this summer romance. And that is literally all we can say before getting into spoilers. So is there anything else you would like to add? Spoiler warning, obviously. Okay, let's jump into it. You want to talk about how the book starts off? Because I thought it did a really great job at hooking you.
Yes, so we start off with the book, and Cecilia is telling us she's sick. Not the normal type of sick, but I have a problem with love. I've grown up on all of these love stories, and I want that crazy love story. But when I had it, I didn't know I had it.
That hurts.
Uh-huh.
She talks about, I think she's 26 years old during the prologue, and it's winter time, so that's the setting. She's taking this road trip back to Triple Falls, which is where she spent this summer right after high school. We also learned that she recently broke up with her longtime fiance named Colin, who she openly says is a great guy. He's just like not the guy for her because she can't get over this thing, these people that happened, when she was 18, 19 years old in Triple Falls. And that's what we're given. Some of the wording and phrasing used is very visceral and shocking. And so it just hooks you. And then we go to present day. Cecilia moving in with her father, Roman. You want to talk about him?
Not really. I don't like Roman.
She's like,
he obviously never wanted to have children. He doesn't like her as a person. He does the very least amount he can for her, and she's having to move in with him because her mom also is not the greatest example of parenthood. She moved in with her boyfriend, and he didn't want her around. He didn't want the child around. Cecilia's just like on her own. Like, I either have to move in with this person who doesn't like me or out on my own at 18, which I guess is fine because she is 18, but it's still neither parent really wants her around.
Cecilia has had to learn to be independent and take care of herself. And you kind of get that chip on her shoulder too in some of the earliest scenes, which are quite funny, actually. But yeah, you learn that her mom is an alcoholic, has the deadbeat boyfriend, and her mom is very unstable. And Roman, he is CEO, founder of this Fortune 500 company, and he actually has like factories all over the place. The deal is when she turns 20, she's going to get to inherit like a piece of the business, but one of the prerequisites is she has to work in the factory. So that brings us to one of the first scenes, which is orientation day at Horner Industries. And they do the whole typical, let's stand up and introduce ourselves. So let's chat through it.
So she makes a comment about she's Cecilia Horner. Yes, those Horners or whatever. And then she makes I forgot what her derogatory comment towards her dad was. What was that?
I don't remember what it was about her dad. I just remember the little quips about Cecilia liked the song, and if you enjoy your afternoon delight in the break room, she's not going to tell anyone.
Okay, yeah. But I thought she said, like, he doesn't really care about what I think anyway.
Yeah, she makes it very clear. She tries to establish herself as not being a daddy's girl that sucks up to him and is not going to snitch anyone out.
Yeah.
And so she establishes herself as a very independent entity working at this place, trying to get on everybody else's level.
Yeah. And I think she also tries to point out, like I said, he doesn't give a shit about her. Because that's one of her chips on her shoulder, is every second that they talk about her dad, she's pointing out that he's never cared about me. It's fine.
No, he's just the ultimate bachelor. Even when she describes him having to religiously wake up early and go work out, and you could like bounce a dime off his butt and stuff like that, which is kind of weird to talk about your dad in that sense. But I guess he's a hot dad. Hot dad with a lot of money, not a good father.
And he's never been her dad. If she grew up not thinking of him as her dad, then he's just like this dude I'm living with.
Her comments earned some snickers, especially directly behind her, and that's when we were introduced to a funny blonde golden god looking character named Sean. And he introduces himself as he likes to take his afternoon delight in the break room, and meanwhile the HR person is just like jaw open, like, really, you guys are going to talk about all of this stuff right here in front of me? And so it's just this funny introduction. And then it kind of fast forwards to them leaving orientation, and Sean is just like booking it across the parking lot because he has to get some one-on-one FaceTime with her. And they had a cute little exchange with a driver's license. Do you remember that part? He invites her to a barbecue that him and his boys and some of his roommates are having at his house. And she's just like, we just met. Why am I going to go somewhere with some complete stranger? And he just kind of retorts, that's the point. I'm inviting you so you can meet me and get to know me. And she asks for his driver's license, and she snaps a photo of it and sends it to her best friend, Christy. so that anything happens, this is the guy that did it. And he's a good sport, and they roll with it. And then she ends up going to this barbecue, which would be overwhelming.
Yes. to say the least, because you have a bunch of very, very attractive guys, some of them nicer than others.
Uh-huh.
And then you have some girls who, some of them nicer than others. Some of them are like, get away, like, I want that guy. And then some of them have already got their guy, and so they're a little nicer.
Cecilia doesn't know what to make because they're all older. They're all mid-20s-ish. She's still here, you know, this 18-year-old for another couple of weeks. He says something to her, I want to enjoy you before the wolf gets a sniff, or something like that. And she's just like, a wolf? Like, who the fuck is the wolf? And so she's going around this party. She meets Tyler, who I freaking love. He was in the Marines or something.
I hope that we get a Tyler take. Tyler in a different character take, because I hope that there's a love story for Tyler.
Tyler is one of the sweet guys.
Mm-hmm.
One of the love interests is just a dickhead, and we can just talk about him. So Sean tries to keep Cecilia by his side throughout this thing, but obviously he's very social and is going off and doing other things. So he leaves her at one point, and that's when Tyler approaches her, and he's like flirting with her. So cute, nice muscles, and she's feeling him too. And she's drinking, so she's getting a little buzz on. And then she locks eyes at one point with Dominic across the people, and he is just... hell no, is the expression all over his face. He knows who she is the vibe that you kind of get. And he just cuts through the crowd of people and confronts her.
I like that in this, you just wrote Dominic is a dick.
He is. He's such a dick for the first several scenes with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean... we can fast forward to the...
Sandra is sending me messages about Dominic, he is so hot, and then Dominic is a dick, and I'm just whiplashing between Sandra's take on Dominic.
I mean, the two things are not mutually exclusive. You can have, you know, both.
Typically, both are actually present.
Yeah. Is that the norm? Yeah. And so from here, this relationship develops between Sean and Cecilia. And Sean is one of those people where he's not willing to put a label on pretty much anything. He gets very metaphysical in the way he talks about whether it's society and politics and a relationship to technology. And, oh, if you're going to spend time with me, you're not allowed to be on your phone. And at one point, he smashes her phone so that she can't
No, it
be
was her
on
watch. It was her watch.
Oh, it was her watch. It was her smartwatch. He did threaten about her phone, and he ended up compromising and saying she couldn't have her phone around him. But he's that guy, and he's always outdoorsy and things like that. And he's actually her boss at Horner Industries, like on the line. He's the supervisor, so there's a little no-no right there, too.
But she's the owner's daughter, so, you know.
She can do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, too, how on the line she meets Melinda. Melinda is her gossip person at work. And then you meet this other one named Vivica. And Vivica, it's like the next work scene, throws a hissy fit at work because it's payday. She gets in Cecilia's face and accuses her of doing nothing about this thing that has been going on, which is that Roman has been apparently underpaying all of the workers in the factory by like a small amount each paycheck, but it adds up to something big. That's the first time Cecilia realizes, oh, maybe Roman isn't doing everything by the book and is being illegal. There's like that conflict. And then the main conflict is with Dominic, who Tera loves.
Who is a dick. He is my type. Just straight out the bat. He is surly, he is brooding, he is the dark cloud, where Sean is like this little puff of sunshine. Loves to be outside, Sean does. Dominic is very inside, he reads. They're complete opposites, but they are roommates too. You see a hangout in a garage. They take Sean takes Cecilia to hang out in their garage. And I forgot what happens, but Sean gets, like, he needs to talk to somebody or something. And so Dominic drives her home, and that drive was torture, I think, for both her and Dominic.
It would have been torture for me. So they're hanging out at King's Automotive. Sean invites her there without getting Dom's blessing, apparently, because it's Dominic King who owns the garage. And Dom, as Tera said, he is smart. He reads a lot. He attended MIT. He's very tech savvy. He does a lot of, it looks like coding or something with computers. So it's a little bit about him. Cecilia shows up at the garage. Sean's busy talking to someone in the back, so she can't even see him. The first person she comes up to is Dom, and he will not let her pass. You get the sense that he thinks she's too young. She shouldn't be there. He thinks that her being with Sean is a bad idea. She shouldn't be there. But eventually, I forget what she does, but she weasels her way in. Everyone is high as a kite. They're just smoking weed the whole time. It's pizza. Music is blasting. And that's how Dom ends up driving her home, is because she passes out from being a little,
lightweight,
all the air. Yeah. And I can't remember what Sean was doing either, but that ride, I would have been car sick. The way he was just going around all these turns, booking it, pedal to the metal, dropping her off at the estate, which Dom sees that, oh, it's a Roman Horner's estate and all this. And so from here, there's like pool scenes. There's a lot of sexy pool scenes where it's just Sean coming, and then it ends up being Dom and Tyler coming to hang out and that kind of thing. And then, as Tera said, there starts to be this comparison with opposites, with Dom being the grumpy guy, Sean being the sunshine, and then literally with the weather, as this romance is opening up between them, Cecilia is hanging out, parsing out her time between the two, just depending on the weather and stuff too.
Well,
which I have to mention.
We get a couple very important scenes before she starts parceling out her time. So the first one is her first kind of sexy time with Sean, because he won't label anything and he is kind of holding back a little bit. And so he takes her out for her 19th birthday and shows her this waterfall that is private, and she's like, it's private because it's owned. We are trespassing right now. That is why this is private.
That's what the sign says.
Yeah, did you miss the sign?
Do not trespass.
And they have their first spicy scene because she makes the first move. And he's like, I've been waiting forever for this.
I did appreciate that, because there is a slight age difference between them. And so he pretty much left the ball in her court to make that. So I respected that decision, actually.
Well, and there's also the secret that she doesn't know anything about yet, but he knows that they're keeping a huge secret from her. And so I get a sense that he was wanting her to make the move to where he doesn't feel bad about starting something with this huge secret over his head.
Yes, I could agree with that.
Which I don't think completely absolves him of going along with something with this huge secret out there, but at least he let her make the decision.
If you're listening and you're wondering, no, Tera and I are not going to be talking about what the secret is, because it doesn't occur in this book. So if you're hoping to learn the secret, you will have to read the next book.
We do learn that there's a secret in this book, though, so it's not a complete spoiler for the next book.
Yeah.
We do not find out. We get an inkling of the secret in this book.
Mm-hmm, for sure. The birthday waterfall hiking scene, that was really hot. And then Sean just does typical like early stage dating type of stuff, right? So they start cooking dinners together. There's one scene he takes Cecilia and parks in front of this little Mexican restaurant where this abuela is back there making tortilla shells, right? And he has her just watch, and she learns that this woman is stealing from the restaurant because she has a sick grandchild. And so she puts all this together. And so Sean is basically talking about how he thinks society is, and how he's one of those people that thinks regular society, working in corporations and stuff, is a bunch of bullshit, how it's structured. Mm-hmm. And that these are real people doing bad things for great reasons, like helpful reasons.
Being humans.
Yeah, being humans that need help. And so you kind of get like little hints of that kind of thing. So even though there's this big looming secret, you know that Sean and them, they have to be doing something good to see the world this way, right?
They aren't just villains.
Yeah. And then he takes Cecilia to this bar, and they have so much fun just dancing and laughing and drinking. They go home to Sean's place and have wild sex. And I think it's the morning after, Cecilia wakes up first to go to the bathroom. And then she's leaving the bathroom, and what happens?
She happens to catch sight of Dom sleeping naked in his bed, and she stares just a little bit too long. because Dom is not unattractive and just there, right? And Dom catches her, which I don't know if he was actually sleeping or if he was just,
He was fucking around.
yeah. But he makes a comment after it to Sean, and he's like, "Your girlfriend was just staring at me." And I'm like, "Oh
No,
my
this
goodness."
is during the apology dinner. Cecilia feels so bad for staring at his junk all day long. She's like, I'm going to make it up to Sean. She's not going to tell him about what she did. She's like, I'm going to make him the steak dinner and make this and that. And so she's making dinner, and Dom, as I've been saying, is a dick. And he's just like, I like my steaks medium rare, blah, 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 just telling her exactly how he likes his dinner cooked for her. And she's just like, oh, hell no. And so this little playful, almost enemies to lovers kind of banter.
I was about to say, it's not super playful because he tells her that if she is going to cook in his house, she is going to cook for him. And then when Sean walks in, he tells Sean that his girlfriend likes to look at his dick.
Okay, was this the scene where Dom had cornered Cecilia against the counter, and so she ends up accidentally touching him? And so then he tells Sean that, oh, your girlfriend was touching my dick?
I think so, because he lets him, like, know about both of the things at once, I think.
And I think it angers Cecilia that Sean's reaction is just
nothing.
No, basically to laugh it off, because that's just who Sean is. He's not possessive of anyone. And so she gets mad. There's a lot of moments of Cecilia getting pissed off and storming out of the house.
Well, and you see also that Melinda, being the gossip she is, tells her that Sean and Dom like to share girls. And so I think that also fuels some of her anger when Sean doesn't get upset, because she's like, I'm not being shared. Like, that's not what I signed up for, so no.
And then Dom one day takes Cecilia to meet his aunt. It's almost like he's doing a drug deal or something, is what she thinks he's doing, because he has like this gun in his car and he's doing shady dealings on street corners. And then he takes her to Delphine's house, who is his aunt, and she's this sick. She's not old. She's probably a little bit older than us. She's in her 40s, but she's wheelchair bound. She is very sickly, and her house is disgusting. There are cockroaches everywhere, garbage, and just things piling up, and she doesn't seem to care about it or care about anything really, especially herself.
Well, Dom picked her up from the hospital because she just had a chemo treatment, and he was taking her home, and he happened to have Cecilia with him. And so, yeah, we see her.
Was Delphine speaking French at times too? Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
But she's basically grilling Cecilia, like trying to figure out what the relationship is between her and Dom. And she's just like, no, wrong guy. I'm dating a different guy named Sean. And the aunt is basically like, oh, okay, eye roll, sure. That's not the tension I'm sensing off the two of you type of thing.
There is definitely some tension.
Yes. And then after this is the float trip. And I have to say, the float trip with Sean, Dom, and Cecilia is probably one of the top 3 memorable scenes in the entire book. I couldn't tell you what the fuck body positions anybody was in, because
I was trying to figure those out. I don't know that those actually work.
I've read this book 3 or 4 times, and I cannot tell you how these people
did this.
Yes, made this happen. I can tell you it was hot, but I can't tell you, I don't know how this fit together and worked, but it was a good scene.
Yes. Cecilia does get shared between Dom.
But it's not forced.
No.
It's not forced. Like, Sean still leaves it up to Cecilia, because he's like, you don't belong to anyone. You don't belong to me. I am not going to hoard you to myself. I want you to be happy and do whatever you want. So if you're interested in Dom, sure, I'm going to support you type of thing. Dom is very obviously interested in Cecilia. She is very obviously interested in Dom. And Sean ends up kind of being this facilitator guy in their little threesome that ensues on this float trip. Did you notice that this was the first scene in the book where the weather was the storm cloud and the thunder rolling too? And so Dom you start thinking about stormy weather and rain and clouds. Of course, this scene where they all get together like this is the first one where there's that kind of inclement weather on the horizon. I just like that little touch.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know how deep you want to talk about this scene.
I'm trying to think if there's any more that needs to be said, or...
Nope, I just wrote Dom and Sean get kinky with Cecilia.
But Cecilia, after this, starts feeling bad again because she's not as
Which,
experienced as Dom and Sean are in general. Like, I think she's only had one other boyfriend before this. Also, she's had this preconceived notion that this isn't what she should be doing. And Sean
right?
is
It's kind of
trying to get
that.
her to, like, move past that.
I thought how Kate Stewart wrote this scene was so good and so relatable because I don't know about you. I don't know all the business you get into. I have never been a part of a threesome or anything like that. And if I, especially at this age that Cecilia is, had done this with these guys, of course you're going to be feeling shame. Of course you're going to be feeling guilt, because you're supposedly dating Sean, but you ended up doing this with his best friend who's like a brother to him. So all of these emotions she's going through, it's so realistic for how I feel like I would be thinking about it after the fact, right? Like the regret, kind of.
Sean is there to kind of bolster her a little bit in that, did you like it? And when she says, yes, I did, he just tells her that it wasn't wrong. If you didn't do something you didn't want to do and you liked it, then it's not wrong. That's just society telling you it's wrong.
Yes. And from this moment on, I think Sean tells Cecilia that he's kind of like a little bit bummed out that he's going to have to share her now because he would have completely been happy as a monogamous relationship with her, but he's willing to share it. Like, he's just not that possessive guy. But from this moment on, Sean makes it clear that anytime she wants to hang out with Dom, whether it's not just sex, but doing anything romantic with him, like another relationship type of thing, he is totally fine with that. And you see him totally be fine with it. He's not lying.
Yeah, no. You already were falling for Sean, but you see how much he's open to what she wants, and she's the leader of this relationship. And again, you have this in comparison to Dom, who is just very surly and grumpy and all of these things, but hot as fuck. And so is Sean. And I mean, I'm jealous of the girl, right? Like, you get both sides of the perfect man. Like, if you could put those two together, he would be the perfect man, at least in my vision. Following this, we get a little bit more of an insight to their business because she gets invited to a car meetup. And this is a meetup of different branches of the Ravenhood, which we've gotten slow information about because they all have this tattoo. And so she starts figuring out that this is more a brotherhood. This is more, something more is going on. She is driven there by Dom. She's kind of afraid, but everybody keeps mentioning, oh, don't worry about it. You came with Dom. And she's like, what the fuck does that mean? And
is this when she's talking to Alicia?
Yeah, and we meet
meets Alicia. And even Alicia is just zipped lips, not saying a single word. This whole thing felt like Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
Or something. Just a race car meetup.
Well, with Dom, too. Thrown in there. You get a little bit more information because you find out that Dom is somewhat of a leader, which is why everybody keeps telling her, you arrived with Dom, nobody's gonna mess with you. And then you get Alicia being a little bit jealous of her because she has both Dom and Sean, and she's like, you have two of the hottest guys here. It's okay. You'll be fine, chick. And then we see this kind of a race scene. Again, Fast and the Furious. It's like Kate was watching those movies, and I'm just going to put some of that in there.
Yeah.
And we come back after the race, and of course, Dom wins. But I think it was somebody from Miami gets out of their car, and Dom beats the living crap out of this person. And we find out that this person almost killed Sean in this race. And so Dom was not happy at all. And again, you see Dom being in charge because nobody's gonna try and stop Dom from beating the ever-loving shit out of this dude. And then you also see the bond even more so between Sean and Dom that I think Cecilia thought she was kind of getting in between, but she's not.
I mean, you mentioned Dom from the actual Fast and Furious scene. Now I'm picturing Sean as Paul Walker. I'm like, oh, why didn't I put that together sooner?
Yes, because Paul Walker is very sunshine and very boy next door surfer vibes. Very
dimples.
Very much kind of go with the flow type.
Yep. Into the Blue with Jessica Alba too. It's like a little mashup for sure.
Although the Dom in this book has hair, and so I like that a lot better.
Oh yeah, he's a little more tan, dark hair. the slight accent. He doesn't have a heavy accent by any means, but there's a little bit of that French influence there. And then the rest of the book, you spend more days, Cecilia getting to know Dom, just spending rainy days with him. It was one of the earlier pool party scenes where Dom went into the house to use the bathroom and did some snooping around in her room and found out she's into books, and specifically romance books. And he had went and gone shopping and bought a bunch of books. So she's like looking around his room and spies like a little receipt of the books, like when he bought them and stuff.
Well, and they're all the books she reads, like the same author that she reads. And as a book girly, if that does not steal your heart, I don't know what will. I don't know what will.
Women write the best men, right?
Yeah. And then all hell breaks loose because somebody can't keep a secret. Oh, wait, no, there's a big scene before that. Never mind.
Well, there was the scene with Delphine. Before we start getting to the end shit blowing up about this book, there was a scene where Cecilia was like, she's a good girl. She's not going to let someone living in filth and squalor, who is obviously very miserable in their life and can't really do much to help themselves. So she has Tyler bring her over to Delphine's house so that she can do some cleanup and stuff. And this is when we find out a really sweet story between Tyler and Delphine. I mean, I don't know how appropriate it was at the time for Tyler being a young, strapping lad before he ever went to the military and getting romantically involved with Delphine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you find out he was in love with her, but she chose somebody else over him who was worthless.
I mean, you said you want a spin-off book with following Tyler. This scene right here, it would be so good to look back and see what happened, because Tyler's honestly one of the best characters in this book. He's just so good. He has so much kindness in him and is very giving, generous.
And he has a strong sense of morals about him.
And he's a flirt.
And he's just adorable.
He's still fun. Yeah, he's adorable. So yes, there was that scene with Delphine.
Okay, I have to pause because number 17 says Sean unsuccessfully breaks up with C.
Yeah, they had like a stupid fight. Remember? It was like watermelon or something. She storms out of the house and Sean goes after her and is just like, never mind. I was just kidding. I don't want to break up. I don't know what I meant. It was just one of those lead ups.
This is where it starts going downhill very quick. You see Sean getting pissed off and then Dom also getting pissed off more often. And the only thing that I think it was Sean who told her this is somebody can't keep a secret. And basically, I think the secret that they're alluding to on this one is that they actually like her, like a lot. It's not just a summer fling kind of a thing. And that is the secret. Somebody told somebody that's not supposed to know about them, right?
Okay, so the secret was, just so you know, the daughter of Roman Horner is dating both Dom and Sean, and it got up to
the wolf because somebody couldn't keep a secret. After we see all of these nice, pleasant scenes, and we begin to fall in love with these characters, shit starts breaking down. Shit starts happening. We see Dom and Sean being more moody, even Sean being more moody. Distancing himself. And we even get a scene of kind of a breakup where Sean is trying to distance himself, and I think Cecilia catches on to that. And she holds him accountable, I think, in that if you don't want to be with me, then don't be with me. And I think Sean even says, well, then we shouldn't be together. And so Cecilia leaves. And then Sean comes running out and he's begging her, I didn't really mean it. Didn't mean it. But then we get another scene where I think, again, it's Sean who says somebody can't keep a secret when he's pissed off. And she's sitting here thinking, what the hell does that have to do with me? Like,
no, she's absolutely mystified.
Because she's still thinking that it's the secret about the Ravenhood, right? And the fact that they steal money from people or allow people to steal money. She's like, I didn't tell anybody. So we have them kind of going on the silent treatment. I don't think if I remember correctly, she doesn't just allow him back at that time. There's a period of time where she doesn't talk to him, right? I don't remember if it's this one.
It was a full breakup period, the final time. And first off, the way that he did it, I mean, if I was a freshly 19-year-old girl and all of a sudden the two guys that I was dating and having what I thought was a perfectly okay, fun time with and that they cared about me, and all of a sudden they're just distancing and being very cryptic about things. And then I walk in and music seems to be this theme, like this tool for communicating in the series between them.
So didn't they have a breakup before this, her and Sean, where she didn't answer his calls for like 3 days and he showed up at her pool with Tyler and Dom and it's like, I can't do it.
Yes.
I can't do it. And that was our like first inkling that it was more, because he couldn't even go a few days of her silent treatment without rushing back to her and saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I can't remember why he tried breaking up with, like, they tried breaking up that first time.
Yeah.
But the second time, just the way that they did it, with her just showing up at the garage and they start playing Afternoon Delight and the song Cecilia, which, have you listened to those songs?
I did listen to Cecilia.
I love that one.
And Afternoon Delight I've heard before, but I don't remember what the songs are about. I have a feeling they're not good songs. They do not give her a loving feeling. And the Afternoon Delight, I know for a fact, is Sean's way of making light of their first conversation. So from the beginning of their relationship, making it into a joke. And I'm guessing Cecilia is Dom's way of making it a joke.
The lyrics of Cecilia is, Cecilia, you're breaking my heart. She ends up seeing somebody else, leaves him alone to wallow and cry on the floor. And then she just comes back. And so both of these songs are just about sex, like that kind of sexual relationship, that fling. And for some reason it ends, or it's just very momentary type of thing. For some reason, Cecilia puts it together that this is them breaking things off with her. And so they refuse to talk to her, refuse to see her, they give her the silent treatment. And this is when she goes off to stay with Christy and go visit her mom for a couple weeks to like calm down and figure out where she's feeling before coming back to Triple Falls. We haven't even really talked about the father much, because he does have cameras and stuff all over his estate, and he sees them dropping off Cecilia time to time and hanging out at the pool and all of their little summer shenanigans the whole time.
He also tries in his own little way to get to know her a little bit more. Like at breakfast, he like asks her questions and stuff.
But he communicates via email.
Yes.
Come on, dude. Just, it's easy. Just talk to her like a person. You were young once too, right? And that's something that Cecilia kind of grapples with too, is she knows that her dad had to have been different when he was younger, or else he would have never been with her mom, just based on the free spirit, kind of irresponsible person that her mother is. And so she's just like, what did they see in each other? Because they are literal opposites.
But so is she and Dom, and so is she and... I guess she's more like Sean than she is Dom. But you could say both of them are opposites to her, because she isn't as free-spirited as Sean is. She likes to be
She wants to be.
To like time, and she's not as willy-nilly as he is. But she's also not as grumpy.
She's a little fiery. But it's after she comes back from the 2 weeks away, and she's still trying to pick up the pieces and figure out what happened. She does a lot of driving through the roads, back roads, and this is when she finally realizes that all of these mysterious car meetups that they were having were pretty much happening in her backyard, and that they were taking all these roundabout ways to throw her off their trail. Isn't everyone gone at this point? Like, she can't find anyone?
So they're all like leaving her be. At the end of where she goes into the garage and they're playing these two songs, Sean loses it, right? He starts punching Dom as she's walking out. And so there is a time where Sean tries to come talk to her, and he says, I still love you. This was all just to get you off somebody's radar. Dom still loves you. And we were doing that to kind of show that we don't actually have feelings for you, because it wasn't meant to be a feelings situation.
Yeah.
And Dom was grumpy because he didn't agree with trying to lure her in, but that was kind of Sean's plan.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the reason Dom was an asshole to her this whole time, because he didn't agree with that. But then he started catching real feelings. And so he's like, okay, I can get behind real feelings. And then Sean also was catching real feelings, and somebody couldn't keep a secret and told the Wolf or the Frenchman, he has two different nicknames, that they were catching real feelings for her. her. And so their way, stupidly, of getting her back off the radar of the Frenchman wolf person was to do this very public breakup. But when Sean saw how much pain she was in from this very public breakup, he lost it. And he's like, so that did not go as planned, because now the wolf Frenchman knows for a fact we have true feelings for you. And so he gets her by himself and tells her all of this. And she's like, yeah, I figured that out already. And he's like, oh, Dom's got to you already, because Dom had got to her already. And Dom had been following her in his car, right? And she had just been losing him because there was a couple scenes where he was teaching her how to drive like he does. And that scene, I don't know if you pictured this, but where she asks him to teach her to drive, and he's like, you already know how to drive. And she said, no, like you do. That like took me back to Titanic, where it's like, paint me like one of your French girls.
Oh, geez. Well, I can honestly say that did not come into my head a single time.
But yeah, so we see both of them still have very strong feelings for her, but they're not willing to like make that public. As she's discovering that she's heard Dom's car lots of times, and then she looks over and she's like, wait, he's been able to email and do things, and if he was in the middle of nowhere, he would not be able to do that. He had to have been close to a cell tower, and there's the cell tower right in her backyard. And so she does figure out that they had been having these meetups right in her backyard, and so she plays a song on repeat called Cigarettes After Sex as her kind of like fuck you to them.
No, the song is called K by Cigarettes After Sex, and it's a great song. But Cecilia is going through it. She's like the, stereotypical girl that's been broken up with. And you know how just insanely just meticulous and detailed you get, replaying everything in your head and like trying to go back and unravel everything and figure out what happened. And it's almost like that retrospect element coming out, and you start recalling all these seemingly minute details that actually were big flags. And so that's what Cecilia is doing in this moment that brings her to that field near her house, playing that song on blast. I don't know if it's intended to be like a twist of the book, but this is when you go through the whole book thinking that it's Dom who is the wolf getting a sniff of Cecilia, right? And then being attached to her, hooked on her. And then the person that shows up at the end is most definitely not Dom. It is the actual wolf. So it's almost that very final twist and then a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Into the next book.
I did enjoy seeing her inner FBI agent come out, because yes, like Sandra said, that is what girls turn into, because they have to like make sense of it. And a lot of times it doesn't make sense because, well, I mean, especially when you're talking young relationships, when you're young, boys just don't make sense sometimes.
No. It's almost the closure element of it. Trying to actually get closure and move on. That's just one of the things that you do. I mean, most of the time. I guess not everybody does it, but if someone felt so invested and emotionally attached, you would be going through those steps. So I did like that depiction of Cecilia post-breakup.
But she's still not talking to them.
No, she's talking to this mysterious guy. And she's just towering over her.
So what's the synopsis of the K song? Because I've listened to it and like my brain just like in one ear out the other. So like, what is the importance of that? Because I know Sandra loves this song. So I feel like Sandra will get the importance of that particular song and how it's sending the FU to the boys.
Yeah, lyrics. I remember when I first noticed that you liked me back, we were sitting down in a restaurant waiting for the check. We had made love earlier that day with no strings attached, but I could tell that something had changed how you looked at me then. Kristen, come right back. I've been waiting for you to slip back in bed when you light the candle. And on the Lower East Side, you're dancing with me now, and I'm taking pictures of you with flowers on the wall. Think I like you best when you're dressed in black from head to toe. Think I like you best when you're just with me and no one else. It's just talking about this very intense romantic relationship between two people, and one of them is depicted just very dark mood, dark swagger, just dark everything. And so we don't really know much about that. You could almost think it's Dom just because of the weather associations with his character in this and his grumpiness, but no, that all comes next book.
But also you could see a little bit of that dark in Sean towards the end of this book too, because at the beginning you see all sunshine and roses with him, but as you see his anger come out more and more of his interactions in this Ravenhood, you see more of he could be that dark side too.
I have a question for you about Sean.
Uh-huh.
Do you think he is as enlightened in his, like, what he wants and his path in the future as what he's trying to act like to Cecilia?
I think he wants to believe it. I think he does believe it, but I think it goes very in contrast to the Ravenhood.
I think he's struggling with how he sees himself, idealistically speaking, and what his personal values are. And then Cecilia came along and toppled all that over, and he's having a real hard time trying to reconcile, oh, I could actually really want this person long term.
I think he's having a hard time as well with the Ravenhood, because in his mind, he's going against societal norms in the Ravenhood, and that fits his particular moral scheme and values, right? But he's doing that by fitting into societal norms. And I think that is just very hard for him to justify sometimes.
I mean, if you look at anyone living two lives, it would be exhausting, and it's going to catch up with them at some point, right? Maybe that's what's happening, and Cecilia's the catalyst.
This is just another. So I think he had the Ravenhood kind of problem, but then this is just another thing that doesn't fit into his carefully curated way he wants to look at his life, right? Cecilia doesn't fit in. He's used to sharing them because that fits into his normal, but he's not used to not wanting to share them. So I think that she is not fitting into this idea of his life that he wanted. And I mean, rightfully so, like, he's not fitting into her idea of the life she thinks she wants. So we see them kind of on the same level there.
I remember when you finished this book, how mystified you were, same as me.
The first time or the second time?
Because we were given no answers still by the end of this book. All of a sudden, this third person is introduced at the end, and we're like, what the fuck? And so it makes you just want to jump right into books number 2 to see what the hell happens. And I'm not going to go into any spoilers or anything about my reaction throughout or after reading Exodus, which is book 2.
But you definitely want to read it.
You definitely will want to read this. Yes.
Yes, I had a very similar reaction this time as well, because I wanted to jump straight into Exodus again. Even though I know the answers, I still wanted to jump right into it. Yeah, I'm trying not to do spoilers, so let me think about what I want to say.
I mean, in terms of just this book overall, I don't know that I've ever read a polyamorous type of book before. No, especially at the time. If I first read this 3 years ago, I did not read that. So I was completely just like, curtains being pulled back. I was like, what is this? You're telling me this is happening? It popped my polyamory cherry. But I liked how it was depicted. It was depicted like in a really healthy way. Like there wasn't anyone getting super jealous, and no stupid communication things besides, around the secret that no one can tell her yet, which would be frustrating.
We do find out a little bit about the past, because we do find out how Dom's parents died in this accident. But we don't know if that's the secret we're keeping, or if the secret has something to do with Cecilia, or if the secret has something to do with something else. We just get these little like red herrings or little foreshadowing, depending on which one is right in the end, of what the secret could be, which drives me nuts.
Need to know it all, Tera. I don't know. I rated this book 5 stars. I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Yes, it has a little bit of everything. You have if you like the sunshine boy, there you go. If you like the more brooding boy, there you go. It has some.
If you like both at the same time,
there you go.
There you go.
It has intrigue. It has a love story that just kicks you in the gut. Yeah.
And that is all we can say right now.
Yes. Hopefully you enjoyed this book if you did read it. Hopefully you did not listen to us before you read the book, because the second time reading this book was a lot different than the first time for me, because I already knew I already read all 3 books, so I know everything. And so the second time is a lot different. So hopefully you read this book before you listened to us, because we did want you to go into this without any spoilers of what was going to happen, and hopefully you enjoyed it.
Okay, can I just read the 3 first lines on the back of the book, because this is the kind of tone of the book that just hooks you in. I grew up sick. Let me clarify. I grew up believing that real love stories include a martyr or demand great sacrifice to be worthy. Because of that, I believed it, because I made myself believe it, and I bred the most masochistic of romantic hearts, which resulted in my illness. It's just, it was so good.
If that
so
doesn't
good.
describe every girl in the world, I don't know what better phrase, because I think we do. We grow up on Disney even setting us up for this masochistic, we have to be asleep and wait for our prince, or we have to like have a horrible home life in order to deserve our prince, or
I would agree with that wholeheartedly.
and I think we all have this illness to varying degrees, but I think we all do. We want some give and take. We don't want just it all has to have something bad, some bad side.
That's what I like about this book. I mean, during the prologue, when she's driving back to Triple Falls, this is years and years after the events, and she's very obviously so traumatized by what happened and still cannot get over this, trying to get that closure. And so it just piques your interest, and you're wondering what the fuck could possibly happen in the last two books to make her this way. I mean, she broke up with her fiance, who she says is a great guy.
She still can't get over it.
So hopefully you enjoyed that talk of Flock. Next episode that releases, we are going to talk about, well, I don't know if it'll be the next episode, but I mean, obviously we're going to be moving on to the next book in the series, right? So we are going to be talking about Exodus, because that one, the re-release, is here very soon as well. And then, of course, the last book in the trilogy, The Finish Line. And then at some point, the spin-off series, there's a book called One Last Rainy Day. So it's like a prequel type of thing. So I would love to start reading the little spin-off books too. I hear they're just as amazing, which I can't wrap my head around. I'm like, how can it possibly? Because this trilogy was so good. So I'm excited. I'm sure it's going to be a roller coaster.
Let us know what you think of this book. What were your favorite scenes? Can you get behind the polyamory, or no, not your cup of tea?
I mean, moreover, can you explain how everyone was situated during the float?
Yes.
Scene?
That is need
Do you
to know
what was happening? Can you draw a picture so I can understand what was happening? I reread that several times and I still do not know.
I did too. I caught myself in the middle of it, like getting out of the love story behind it and trying to figure out, like, where are her legs? How is this happening?
No, it's like that meme, that woman is like staring off into space and you see like the equations just going past her eyes.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on, but I liked it. But anyway, okay, that's all.
On that note, draw Sandra and I a picture of these people having sex, please.
Oh no, don't. That's highly inappropriate. Flagging that.
You said it. You asked for this picture.
Be careful what you wish for, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay, until next time, we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.